and you're not likable, and you're not trustable. And when people see you on stage, they feel bad. That's how people feel. Yeah. Now you want coffee. Now you're the coffee man. And that's the kind of stuff that makes people not like you.
I know. Are we on the pod now?
Yeah, we've been on it.
Oh, we have?
It's been going.
When you poured me coffee, that was part of the pod?
Well, I don't know. We'll probably cut that out. Nobody said anything during that time.
Yeah, nobody did.
I called you Pete from Pete's Coffee. That was an excellent roast.
Can we stop? Because, I don't want to be called Pete from Pete's Coffee.
Dude, I mean, you're fucking Pete right now. You're absolutely Pete.
All right, well, welcome to the Dagnabbit boys. This is our first episode since the inauguration of President Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris has destroyed Gaza. Kamala Harris destroyed the entirety of Gaza. And what are we going to do?
I wouldn't say destroyed is sort of up to interpretation. Is it what it used to be? No. Is it now run by Rick Caruso?
Yes.
Yes. Kamala Harris gave Gaza to Rick Caruso, and he's building it up into an outdoor mall with also apartments and living spaces.
Which is cool. I mean, there's no population of Gaza right now, so
but there's gonna be
zero. It's actually zero, which is crazy. I think this is the first time in history in areas the population's been zero.
It's about to be population C's Candy, population AMC Theater, population Cheesecake Factory.
Oh my God, I would love to go to the Cheesecake Factory in Gaza.
Population Apple Store, population Nike Store. So it'll be populated by workers, and then everybody who shops there will be tourists. It's going to be a great spot for people from Dubai and from, maybe even guys from Yemen who are not caught up in that civil war. But listen, do I think the solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was to hand Gaza and parts, but not all, of the West Bank over to Rick Caruso so he could turn it into a beautiful outdoor mall and apartments? No, I don't think it's what people expected.
I don't, I'm kind of in this position where I'm not for it, but I'm also not against it.
There's peace?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing.
There's peace because there's nobody there.
Am I for the Grove? When I think of the Grove, I think I don't like it, but I'll go to the Grove.
There's a Barnes & Noble there.
There's a Barnes & Noble.
You can buy the Grapes of Wrath.
You can
You're going to be able to buy the Grapes of Wrath at Gaza.
Finally, Gazans can read the Grapes of Wrath and understand poor people for once.
But unfortunately, they're all dead, so as soon as all the people from Dubai move in, they're about to turn Gaza into Dubai too, plus the Grove.
Yeah, and Israelis will get to go there, and they'll get to buy books about the history of Israel and Palestine, and they'll read about the destruction that's been caused there in a Barnes & Noble.
They'll skip to the end and be like, I hope the good guys won, and they'll be like, yes, they did.
Yeah.
The good guys won.
Yes, yeah. And it's good to feel like the good guys. You know what I mean? It's good to feel like the good guys. It's fun to feel like the good guys. I envy people that can believe stuff so much, so strongly. I was doing that trans Bud Light joke last night, and when I said they put a trans lady on a can, a guy in the crowd went, "That's a dude on the can."
Wow.
And he felt the need.
Was he actually Southern, though?
He was. No, he was. And if he wasn't Southern, I would have still done that voice, so it's a good question.
It's a very David Cross thing.
Yeah, it's very Southern. Yeah, and I don't want to be a California elite, but there are things you can't change.
David Cross is from Atlanta, though.
Yeah, but he's a California elite.
Yeah?
I mean, he's not, I think something, it's like sometimes people aren't born in New York, but they're like a real New Yorker.
Yeah.
And that's, and I don't even know if David Cross lives in LA, but he is, no matter where he is, he's a California elite.
I feel like he's a bi-coastal guy.
I mean, I
feel like he seems like the type of guy that it's like you look him up and you're like, where's he living currently? And you're like, oh, Paris?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you grow up in Atlanta and maybe I feel like Atlanta's pretty democratic, but I don't know.
I think he's from Savannah or something like that.
Yeah, so maybe he didn't like the people around him and their views, and he rebelled against that, and he moved to California, and then he's here, and in that rebellion just becomes a California elite, just like I.
Yeah.
Me and him think the same things for different reasons. He's a California elite that would ascribe a Southern voice to any impersonation of somebody being bigoted.
Yeah.
And he has more of a reason to do it, and I don't, but we both do it.
You're both talented comedians.
This guy was Southern, though.
He was. Did you find out where?
No, because he was like, that's a dude. And I was like, oh, you said he's just a dude? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, man, I wish I could believe stuff as strongly. You know what I mean? Like, I'm envious. You know what I mean? Because, like, I believe trans women, but I'm not like, so like, fuck yeah. You know, like, I just don't care. I just accept it, you know? But like people that like don't believe trans women are like, they really get to believe something so strongly. And I asked him, I was like, oh, are you like a Trump guy? Because I was just curious. I was like, that would kind of be compatible, you know? And he was doing that thing where he was like, me? And I was like, yeah, obviously you. And he was like, well, I mean, he's better than the other side. And nobody really laughed at this, but I was like, it's funny to have a moderate opinion on Trump. To be like, he's okay. You know what I mean? Like, he's fine. It's like, it's so weird. That's honestly crazier to me. Like, when people are like Trump fanatics, I'm like, well, that makes sense because he's such a personality. You got a personality cult. It makes sense to be so excited. But somebody that looks at him almost just like a regular guy.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, you know, he's okay. It's like, he's insane.
Well, that's how much the Democrats have failed.
I mean, I guess so. Like
if you have just the most boring candidate possible and you're like, well, the extreme guy seems way more like me.
Yeah. It's a really weird, it's scarier than somebody who's like waving a flag and has a Trump hat and is like, he's my God. Like, I can understand that because my neighbor won't stop banging on the fucking wall. You heard that?
I did.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Daily. Like 6 times a day. Bam. And it's not like an intentional hit on the wall to shut me up. It's like, I don't know what's going on. And he can hear all of this. There's a tiny hole in the wall.
He can hear it?
Probably.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know.
Do you think he agrees with us?
I hope so. Maybe.
Do you think he listens every week and is like, this is my favorite time? Maybe he's knocking on the door to be like, talk louder.
Yeah,
I can barely hear you.
I hope he bangs on the wall when he agrees with a point. When he's like, yeah, it is interesting to be moderate about Trump. I do find that interesting as well. Keep going. But yeah.
Yeah, so Trump, he's doing stuff. Seems bad, but I don't know enough about politics to really know how bad it is. Seems like if you just read it, it's like, oh, that's really bad, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of stuff that just doesn't seem to do anything for anybody besides like, it just like he made like it illegal to like designate somebody as trans legally. Like, you can't do that anymore. Yeah,
that's bad. But I mean the stuff that's like more actively political things where it's just like, this just seems bad for no reason.
Like what?
Like all the tariff stuff.
Oh, he's putting tariffs on other countries?
Yeah, he put tariffs today. He put tariffs on Mexico and Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
So like we don't trade with like, oh, because he hates the North American free trade. He hates NAFTA.
Yeah.
He thinks it's a terrible deal, which I don't.
My roommate thinks he's trying to destroy the Fed. He wants to destroy the Federal Reserve.
I don't think that would be advantageous for the president to do.
Well, he says that my roommate thinks that the crypto, he wants there to be a reserve of crypto.
I don't think there can be. I don't think that's how crypto works.
I don't know. My roommate seems pretty smart, and he's huge. He's very fat.
I mean, he is fat, so he can have so much more knowledge than we can.
Yeah, I mean, it's stored in his stomach.
That is just confusing, though. It's like he wants to... I don't know. I mean, the money we have is fake. Right now we have fiat money, and that pretty much just means that we just decide, like, the value of the dollar. It's not based off gold anymore, so we just decide it, and it's based on mutual trust. So which means the value of our money is, like, made up.
So that means you can go to a brothel and hand a woman $5 and be like, hey, I've decided this is $500. You have to do everything.
Well, if we all decided, then yes.
Yeah. Oh, so if we all decided, we could all go to brothels and we could all be like, hey, I want to pay for pussy with this $5 bill, which you don't know is actually a $1,000 bill. So this is a great deal for you.
I mean, I think, it is funny because it's a big reach, but honestly, with how much our money is kind of just up in the air now, it's who's to say, I don't know. I think that's why a lot of crypto guys would say crypto is actually even more reliable because it's like an open blockchain and the value of that crypto is decided by like how much crypto there is, I think. So there's like more of a sort of, kind of, I don't know if you'd call it a 1-to-1 ratio, but more of just a transparency in where the value comes from, where the money we have, it's not really based on anything other than like, yeah, this is how much it is. And we just sort of decide that. And that's why people like crypto, I think, because the money we have isn't really real. And in many ways, the Federal Reserve, I think, is like kind of already, it's almost already pointless. So But the thing is, I feel like if you're the American president, if you wanted to not, he wants the dollar to be powerful because it's our money. And the US dollar is still like the main currency used in like business and foreign stuff. And like economic alliances like BRICS are trying to change that and make like the yen and other currencies more valuable, which would really fuck up our economy. So Trump doesn't want that to happen. Any American president wouldn't want that to happen. But I also don't think he would want the crypto thing to happen because, once again, that devalues the dollar.
This isn't really this is kind of related to this. I'm kind of going back to the value of money, right? Because I've been writing about I remember in this class I had in high school, one of the guys with Down syndrome was in there, and the whole class they were just teaching him like how much money was. They had like a little table, and they gave him fake money, and he had to put like the $20 bill on the 20 spot. They're trying to teach him how much the money is. And I feel like that proves money's fake if a guy with Down syndrome has to be taught about it. It has to be explained to him.
Well, I mean, money. What? First off, why are you in a class with a guy with Down syndrome?
This was like a general class we all had to take.
Yeah, but why would he be in that? Why wouldn't he be in a special class?
Because the guy who taught it, I guess, probably worked for it. This class sucked. I failed it because I had to register to vote, and I refused to register to vote. It was like a class about learning how to be an adult. And so the Down syndrome guy, I don't know, I think he was friends with the teacher or something, so he just sat in there, and he would do his little money thing, and he'd do the blocks where you'd put the blocks into the right shapes. Which that also means shapes are fake, too.
I mean, it's very hard to not say you were in a special class.
I was not in a special class.
I do believe you. It's wild that they just threw a kid with Down syndrome into a regular class and told him to do other stuff.
That is what they did.
Were there not other kids with Down syndrome in the school? They couldn't all get their own class?
There was their own class. But that kid just was in that class.
He was the best of the best.
Yes, he was the smartest Down syndrome guy.
They were looking at him in class, and they're like, let's get him out with everybody else. He's just about as smart as all the other kids.
Yeah, that guy was great.
I mean, I don't know
that guy other kids used to be like, hey, say this, and it was a cuss, and he'd say it, and then he'd keep saying it, and we were like, yo, that's what's up.
I mean, I don't know. Kids have to be taught what money is, too, and he's just less developed. Money's not natural, you know?
Yeah, that's my point. It's not natural.
Yeah, it's definitely not natural.
Because when you're born, you're just like, we should just share everything. Why don't we just share all of our stuff? And then they're like, no. We made pieces of paper. We can't share everything because then we made all this paper, and what are we going to do with it?
But you have to teach kids sharing, too. That's a big part of raising. You ever seen, like, two kids play, and the mom at one point will always have to, like, share?
No, I don't. I'm not going to the playground to watch kids play. I don't know. You might do that.
I'm not going to the playground. I'm going to, like, family Christmas. I'm seeing my cousins with their kids.
Yeah, well, they give my kids knives. They give my cousins knives.
Okay, well, even if you gave the kids knives and there were two kids and only one knife, you would have to tell the kids, hey, share the knife with your brother or your cousin. Well, kids have to be told countless times to share. I mean, I'm not saying humans are inherently selfish and they don't share. Tons of kids will share on their own, I'm sure. But a lot of times a kid will have something, they'll like it, and then they'll have to be told, hey, the right thing to do is to share that thing.
But they understand that immediately.
They don't like it.
They don't like it. The thing is, though, if you told a guy with Down syndrome you should share, he'd be like, that makes sense. Told a kid with Down syndrome we have green pieces of paper, they'd be like, what?
You're definitely right about, I guess, yeah, money is less natural than sharing.
Yeah.
But money is also a way to share things. It's a way to give incentive to share things.
Are you trying to rob me right now?
Yes.
Are you going to rob me?
Like, in a moralistic way, you could be like, hey, it would be nice if you made this bag.
You know what?
Somebody, because
I have $20 on me. You can have it. You can have it if you're trying to rob me right now.
I'm trying to rob you every podcast. But yeah,
Damn.
I mean,
the viewers might not know this, but I have to come in with a $20 surcharge every single time I do this podcast.
There's a cover charge at the door. There's always a cover charge for my apartment. I don't know why most people don't do that. It's a great way to make money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's also, if a woman comes, right? If a woman comes over to your apartment,
$20.
$20, you give her $20, and then she gives you $20, then you give her $20, and you're like, all right, now suck my dick.
That's how I get the $20.
Yeah.
And then, nobody feels cheated or lied to.
Yeah.
That's how I use money in a way for everybody to feel like they're getting what they deserve. And without that, we would just, what's the incentive to suck my dick? What's the incentive to let her into my apartment? If there's no money.
Yeah, no. That's one thing about free market capitalism people don't understand. There's the trickle-down pussy effect.
The more money, the more pussy is getting bought and sold.
Yes, and then the pussy, you'll get the little, it'll go down to the working class, and it's called trickle-down economics because of the cum from all the ruling classes trickling down her leg.
The working class gets some pussy, too.
Yeah.
We
all get pussy.
If the ruling class gets to fuck 10 times a day, it'll trickle down, and the working class will get to fuck like once a week after they finish their job.
Yeah.
You finish your job, and then you get a little pussy. Honestly,
they're actually getting too much pussy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because we're the hard workers. I don't know if you listen to this podcast, but we are Numero Reach.
A lot of people think that you can use pussy as money, but that's wrong. You can use money as money to buy pussy, and that's okay.
Yes, it's fine.
And that's moralistic. And
sometimes the pussy comes to the country in crates, but, they let the guys that make the crates have a little bit after we're done.
And usually I disagree with that, but I've recently been fired from my jobs. Now I have to pimp bitches off Fig.
Yeah. Cooper's been down on Fig, pimping bitches. I was down there the other day, just straight up. I had $20. I do this thing where I go down to Fig. I only have $20. And then I get a woman to the car, and I'm just like, hey, I only have $20.
Yeah, you tried to jip my bitch. I had to gorilla pimp your ass. I'm a gorilla pimp.
He slapped me, man.
I'm not one of these fly-ass suckers walking around with nice chains and shit. That's dumb as hell. On Fig, putting a target on your back. I walk around in a Carhartt jacket. I got a chain wallet, and I use that shit to choke out Johns trying to jip my bitches.
And it does suck getting choked out, but, sometimes, you come in with a sack full of pennies, and you're like, I'm sorry, this is all I have. Well, do you not want to make this?
I've realized that the money is in the volume. So most pimps are like, oh, we'll get the best pussy and we'll let Johns fuck for the highest price. But I'm like, I'm getting the worst pussy.
Yeah.
And Johns can pay $5 max and you get a hand job. And my bitches can do that quick, and they do a bunch of those in a night. And it's sort of the Walmart of pimping, where other guys are trying to be boutique Gucci escort services. I don't want a website. I don't want any of that shit. I have 2,000 bitches.
Yeah.
They're all over Fig, and they're jerking like motherfuckers, getting $5 a man. If each of them do 5 a night, I mean, that's a lot of money.
So here's what I was thinking of doing is you get these women, right? And you get these little, those little cups they have for the sperm banks?
Of course I do.
Yeah, and so you jerk the guys off into the sperm bank cups.
And then I get to drink the cum.
No, well, actually, Cooper, you're actually,
because I'm the man in charge.
No, you don't understand. You actually take the cum to a sperm bank. But your idea is good too. But, that's what I would do to make money.
Yeah, I walk into a sperm bank with a box full of jars of cum, and I go, big shipment today, and they go, what are you doing? And I go, I'm trying to offload this jizz. And they're like, you can't come in here and sell jizz.
First off, you're not allowed to wear purple inside the sperm bank. For some reason, that's a rule here.
I'm in a full purple Dickies fit. I'm Dickies jacket, Dickies 5.78, and I'm trying to sell cum. And they're like, no, it has to be from your own penis. And I'm like, you think I'm giving you my juice?
Yeah.
My juice is for my woman.
I ain't tall enough.
First off, let's get one thing straight. You ain't letting a motherfucker like me give no jizz. But I got a whole box of 6 foot cum.
I'm not college educated. You don't want this jizz.
I'm dumb as hell. I'm short as fuck. And I act stupid. I can't give you my cum.
That's why I brought other dudes cum.
I act like a motherfucker. I act like a dumbass motherfucker. Now, anyway, I'm looking to get about $600-700 for this cum. What you thinking, though? I'm willing to negotiate. I'll go as low as $5. And they're like, we're not buying it. What? A lot of it is red. I put the food coloring in it so you know it's mine. It's like that blue crystal, you know what I mean? It's so you know it's from the Daddy Mac himself. I got the best jizz on the block, and you know it by the color. I said, well, we can't. You put food coloring in it. You tainted it. I said, bitch, that's my marker.
Baby gonna come out red.
If a baby come out red, it ain't no problem. I got tons of red bitches on my block. They red as hell, looking like
I got
Thanos.
red bitches. I got purple bitches.
I got purple bitches. Fuck wrong with a purple bitch?
Oh, you say you don't care if a motherfucker white, black, or purple, but you won't fuck my bitch?
All of a sudden, a purple bitch walk up, and you prejudice as a motherfucker. You walking around saying, I don't care who you are, white, black, purple. All of a sudden, purple-ass bitch I got. Faux titties on her.
You like, give me a black bitch? I got a purple bitch.
She purple. Fuck wrong with a purple bitch?
She got 3 legs. She got a leg growing out of her neck. I don't know how that happened. She is struggling to breathe and shit.
All my bitches from Chernobyl. Y'all mad because my bitches grew up near the DuPont plant. Got birth mutations.
Oh, you don't want to
shit.
fuck a bitch that's just goo. You don't want to fuck a straight up puddle.
You don't want a bitch that you can pour into a cup. All right, then. Just because I got a picture of bitch right here. You don't want to stick your dick in the picture. She in that picture.
I got a picture of bitch. That's 3 bitches. You owe me $200 for those 3 bitches.
You pour half this bitch in a cup, throw a lemon wedge in there. You can drink her. You just got to throw her back up. Because that's my bitch. Don't be thinking you can drink and piss out my bitch now. Just because my bitch is goo.
I be using the bitches as bidets. I be pouring the straight pitcher on my shit covered ass. Clean out my ass.
And this is how I scare the other pimps off the block. Because they go, this motherfucker's walking around with a pitcher of Kool-Aid talking about this is a human. This motherfucker has a pitcher of Kool-Aid talking about this actually a girl. He kissing the Kool-Aid.
The Kool-Aid like, my man treat me right.
This guy say he a pimp. He over here with a pitcher of purple Kool-Aid jacking off. Talking about I'm a gorilla pimp. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, don't fuck with that guy's block. He threw some goo on me.
Yeah, he's got that block locked down just because he's throwing jizz and Kool-Aid on people. I don't know. He's been mixing his jizz with Kool-Aid. Listen, I'm not saying I'm scared of him. I'm saying he's the grossest motherfucker I've ever seen. And so we just don't go on that block anymore because he keeps throwing goo and Kool-Aid, and it's gross as a motherfucker. But I mean, I
tried litter cleanup. Motherfucker said, "This is my trash."
Motherfucker trying to hoard trash.
He loves trash.
Motherfucker thinks trash is bitches. Talking about I got all the bitches. He got 17 McDonald's cups.
Motherfucker got an empty pack of cigarettes. He talking about this my bitch.
This motherfucker on Fig trying to sell homemade pocket pussies. Talking about cheaper than a bitch. What's that about? How does that work?
Yeah, what about a pimp though that like if the woman is like takes off, he's like, all right, I guess I gotta suck the dick. All right, bitch, I'll cover your shit.
Yeah, like she goes on vacation for 2 weeks, come back, and he's sucking a guy. He's like, where have you been? I have been having to fuck all these Johns. And she's like, what? Why are they fucking you? He's like, they need somebody to fuck.
All right, here's your paid overtime.
You show up.
Here's your PTO.
You're in a hotel, you get a knock on the door, you're like, oh, she's here. And you open the door, it's me. You're like, what's going on? You're like, listen, the bitch in Cabo, but I'm going to let you fuck my ass because I'm a business owner. And I know if I don't let you fuck my ass, I'm going to lose all my money. And they're like, I don't want to fuck a dude. I'm like, you wanted to fuck some.
I'm going to put a wig on my asshole.
I'm going to put a wig on my butthole, draw some eyeballs on it. You call it a shit blowjob. Act like a bitch got shit in their mouth. You fuck my ass.
And a lot of my women do have shit in their mouths. Unfortunately. Those are the only women that'll work for me.
Motherfuckers talking about I ain't gay. Motherfucker, it ain't gay. It's a wig on a man's ass.
I got a red wig on my ass. I heard you like redheads. I put a red wig on my ass.
And I'm keeping the cum. I'm putting food coloring in it.
Oh, you don't like the fake nose I got from the Party City.
So you don't like
I put a fake nose on my ass, and you don't like it.
So I show
that
up
was 3 cents at Party City.
I show up with a Groucho Marx mask on my ass, tell you can fuck this for as long as you need, and all of a sudden, you too big time. You too Hollywood for me. You too Hollywood to fuck my ass with a Groucho Marx mask on it. Okay.
There's some motherfuckers on Skid Row that'll do this.
I've been getting fucked all up and down Skid Row. just trying to keep my business in order. All my bitches done left for Cabo.
I keep paying for my bitches' vacations, and I'm getting fucked in the ass.
I don't know what a pimp is. I literally have no idea. I thought it was a guy who was friends with a lot of women, and it turns out that none of these women are my friends. So first off, that was really hurtful to learn. I thought we were friends. We're not.
I looked up a picture of a pimp. I thought it was just a guy who had a bunch of rings on. So I showed up to Fig with a bunch of rings on.
I showed up to Fig with a bunch of rings on. I met a lot of girls. I paid $100 an hour to speak to them. They kept talking about sex. I don't know why. I don't know why they're so obsessed.
I don't know what it is.
All of these women that I'm now friends with are so obsessed with sex. All they care about is money. I have to pay so much money to talk to them. And then, after only an hour of speaking, some guy I don't know comes up to my car and tells me that my new friend has to leave. So, I'm still trying to figure out what a pimp is. And honestly...
You know how hard it is being a pimp? You know how much money I got to spend on Duolingo learning all these bitches' is languages?
I didn't speak Peruvian 2 months ago.
That's how dedicated a pimp I am. I'm on Rosetta Stone learning how to talk to these women.
Oh, you think you a player? You know how many Facebook friends I got? I'm Facebook friends with all these bitches.
You know Black Ice? Well, I do.
I do.
He's my Facebook friend.
I do. You know Good Times? Been friends with Good Times for a minute. Somebody's like, are you making any money? No.
Is that what this is about?
Wait, what? I'm spending an insane amount of money.
Well, you got to spend money to make money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm making no money, but I'm spending a lot.
Just explaining this to another pimp, be like, you see how the game works. You got to pay another pimp's bitch to talk to that bitch. And then you become Facebook friends with that bitch. Then that bitch is yours. And he's like...
Then you message her, hey on Facebook multiple times.
Are you free to go to lunch or not? Final offer. And if she don't come, then you ain't friends no more.
You'd be messaging women like, hey, and then 3 hours later you must be, damn, you must be busy today, haha.
Haha. You must be busy, I'll hit you up later. I would love to see you. I would really love to see you today. I bought some new rings I'd like to show you. I'll pay whatever the price it is to see you. They keep calling me John. My name is Cooper. My name ain't John.
Oh, man, I've been meeting a lot of Johns.
My name Cooper, and I'm trying to hang out with these girls more.
They keep trying to change my name.
This don't make no goddamn sense.
I had to go to the government, and I had to change my name to John. So it started making some damn sense to me.
Man, I've been doing comedy on Fig. I've been doing these shows talking about, you ever get fucked?
I asked my friend Daherm. He said he's going to be recording a new comedy special. I said, oh, where? And he said, Skid Row. And then he walked away. Daherm rules. I was driving around last night, dude. I was like, man, if I had a fuck ton of money, I would fund his Skid Row thing. I'd make it look good. I'd direct it.
He would be a great guy to invest
Yes.
a lot of money into. To just be like, okay, all the money in the world, what do we, because he's an idea guy.
Yeah.
You can see it. There's tons of ideas. He's very confident yet aloof, you know? I try and say hi to him. Sometimes he doesn't say hi to me. I'm like, okay. I don't know. He's all around.
He's great because sometimes he'll introduce me to other comedians and be like, Shane's hilarious. And I could be like, oh, shucks.
Yeah. I had a friend I hadn't seen in years hit me up today. He said, date him. And I said his name. I was like, is this you? And he said, yeah. And I said, what's date him? He said, I meant to say damn. And I said, okay, well, how you been? He said, depressed. Hadn't talked to this guy in 5 years, probably more. I was like, oh, okay. Anything in particular? And he goes, no, sorry. What have you been up to? And I told him what I'd been up to. And I was also like, yeah, I've been talking to this psychoanalysis. He's pretty cool. If you want his number, you're all fucking sad. And then he goes, sorry, what do you look like again? And I was like, we follow each other on Instagram. You can check that out. And he goes, what's your name? He goes, sorry, I got a new phone. I don't know your name. And I was like, okay, I'm not. And it sounds like a scam. This guy's phone gets hacked a lot, and he'll ask you for money. But he was talking exactly how he talks. Hadn't talked in 5 years, doesn't know my name. I guess this is his way of getting numbers by just telling random numbers he's depressed and then going, by the way, who is this? And I just stopped responding. I was like, you know what? Our friendship had already naturally...
That's why he's depressed. Is he keeps messaging people, damn, and then they go, how are you doing? He's like, depressed. And he's like, nobody's helped me.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that's like truly hard to help because he's like an adult now, but still is depressed in the way a 16-year-old is depressed, you know, where it's just like, ugh. And it's just like, can you just be depressed like everybody else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, especially like mid-20s, everybody is either depressed or the dumbest fucking person you've ever met. And the depressed people are also the dumbest fucking people you've ever met. They're just not having fun.
Yes.
But those are like the two type you are. You're either like depressed and anxious and you're trying to build a life, or you think everything is awesome. And I envy and don't envy those people. But then when you have this middle group that's still like, can you believe how depressed I am? It's like, of course. You're 24.
Yeah, I feel like teenage depression gets fixed around the time you get a job, and then you like are able to pay for Criterion Channel.
And then you go, okay.
Okay, all right.
I'm watching the Maltese Falcon. This is not bad. This is okay.
I'm watching Asparagus, because David Lynch just died, and they used to put asparagus before Eraserhead.
I'm watching LA Confidential. I don't care. Everything's fine. Yeah, eventually depression just becomes sort of like the background noise to your life. Yeah. Where like you're not really sad about it, but if your friend asks you, like if I asked you how you're doing, you might be like, I don't know, fuck, whatever. You know what I mean? Like nobody's excited about life. But then when you talk to somebody, it's like, it's interesting when you talk to an adult or a young adult who's still interested in their depression, where you're like, okay, you're not supposed to have all your problems fixed, but it's weird that you're still into this.
Yeah, I mean, you should be completely absorbed by content by now.
You should
you should not be able to concentrate on anything right now.
Yeah, you talk to a guy that's still so depressed and you're like, are you watching enough reels? I don't think you're watching enough. Do you have an algorithm of guys with Down syndrome and people with physical deformities that have special talents? They like to cook or dance.
Oh, wait, I know what will cure your depression. Check out this bitch with 2 heads.
Have you seen the bitch with 2 heads? Because you're still talking about killing yourself. That's off the table.
You're too old to kill yourself.
Yeah, you should have accepted that you're a coward and you're never going to do that. I accepted that, and now I'm just living a useless life. Can you get on board with this?
Look around. Don't you think everyone in this room wants to die? Every single person.
By 22, you should realize that you're not as smart or thoughtful as Dostoevsky. You're just a dumb idiot who's sad. And that's all you get.
But when Dostoevsky was 22, that motherfucker was banging hookers and gambling every night.
And he was doing cool shit because he didn't have reels.
Yeah, he didn't have reels.
And you don't need...
But if he did have reels, maybe he'd be even better.
No, he'd be on reels.
You think he'd be on reels?
Everybody would.
You think he'd be on reels talking about women's icks?
The greatest minds of our generation are on reels.
They're on reels, like when a guy uses a fork but uses his left hand, that gives me the ick.
Yeah, like being destructive is really easy now. You know, like the opening line of Hal. What is that? I've seen the greatest minds of my generation.
Yeah.
What is it? Do you know?
I've seen the greatest minds of my generation. Something destroyed. Basically, like the greatest minds of my generation were destroyed by some shit.
Yeah, but at that time, they were destroyed by like literally like shooting up morphine and like having a directionless life and fucking hookers. Because they didn't have reels.
Yeah.
Because to be destructive was still active. You had to go do stuff. Now, you can destroy your mind completely, and all you're doing is just being like, oh, damn, Costco guy's got a new Christmas song.
It is funny about the reels that you see. Like, so many reels you'll see, you'll just be like a homeless guy on the street, and he's like, I removed all my teeth so I could suck dick better, and then you laugh, and you're like, what a loser. Well, you're just kind of doing the same thing, but without doing anything.
I don't even get to call him a loser.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that process is so quick to where I'm like, damn, what a fucked up life. And then I like look at myself and I'm like, well, this is also meaningless.
This is actually less meaningless because I'm not doing anything.
You can't even write about this.
Yeah.
I think that's why like a lot of art now is like not as interesting.
Because I feel like a lot of art is just nostalgic. Fashion is nostalgic. I mean, look at how I'm dressed. This is fucking bullshit. This is not modern.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's nostalgic now because and everybody talks about this all the time, but it's like I just think the current age is like generally not that interesting.
Yeah.
We like the tech companies have given us entertainment that is just enough, and then everybody's just flying at this lukewarm level where it's like the only thing funny now is like pretending to like the Costco guys.
Yeah.
Where it used to be like you'd walk down the street and you'd see a clown getting like beaten up by a gang.
Yeah.
And there's so much substance in that. Like a clown, a guy who has a family, is on his way back from being a clown, a gang sees him and they kick him in the jaw and his jaw breaks, so his jawbone's falling off, but he still has a clown makeup on. And then you go home.
Is beating him up because he has so many colors on that they don't know which gang he's trying to rep.
Every gang is offended. Every gang. But you could go home and you could write about that, you know? And now those gang members and that clown, they're at home on Reels. And you're at home on Reels.
I was at,
and we're all just watching little Jacob.
It's great to have to walk. You know how great it is to walk? I walk to the coffee shop near my apartment all the time, and I'll go read fucking poetry there or some shit. And then you walk back, and there's a Mexican dude dressed by a cowboy who doesn't speak any English, and he's got his kid, and there's another guy smoking meth next to the kid, and then you keep walking, and there's a dead flower on the ground, and you're like, "That's nice."
And they all got an attitude, and they all have an attitude.
Yeah,
you know, everybody. Yeah, walking is crazy. I mean, truly, it's like you're on Reels all day. You think you're seeing crazy stuff, and then you just walk down the street, and there's a guy, and he's goo. And he has an attitude. He looks at you. You're like, what the fuck? And he's
why is that goo wearing a hat?
Yeah, and he's like, fuck you.
The hat's all gross now.
Yeah, he's like, fuck you, 18th Street, bitch. And you're like, okay.
We're not even close.
We're not even close to 18th Street. What you doing out here? You are way off the block.
We are on Vermont and Clinton right now.
You're
so off. The streets have names here.
I looked it up, and I guess 18th Street gang, which I think is a Mexican gang, likes to use Raiders apparel for their gang. So I have the new Raider jacket. I think I might go down there and show the fellas, see what they think of it.
Oh, that's really nice.
I think it would be nice to go down there and say, what do you guys think of this Carhartt jacket with the Raiders patch? And they'll probably go, that looks awesome. We're on Reels, though.
I was sitting at the back door at the Comedy Store the other day, and there's this Mexican guy who's super drunk and kept talking to me. And he was excited to tell me that he was the landlord and that he rents out. Lives in Southgate, and he rents out to a black guy who's he's friends with. And he acted like that was the craziest shit ever, that he rented out to a black guy. And he was like, I have to tell all the Mexicans this is my cousin. But he's not actually my cousin, so they don't kill him.
See, and that's the kind of insane thinking and racism you get when somebody's not on Reels.
Yeah.
You know,
that guy was clearly not on Reels.
If you're off Reels, you say something like, in 2024, you think it's insane to rent an apartment to a black man.
Yes.
That's 1920s thinking. And that's just...
That's 1990s thinking, more like, I feel
like. Well, 1920s, too. I mean, it never stops.
But I feel like 1990s was when it really was like, fucking, well, there's a black guy in this Mexican neighborhood. Guess we have to kill him.
Yeah. But I'm even just talking about just redlining, you know what I mean? Like, this guy is still like, can you believe you rent an apartment to a black man? Like, that's the oldest shit.
He said he has to tell people that because they know he owns the place, he has to tell people, yeah, he's not stealing from me.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny.
It's funny, the security guard, like, saw that he was bothering me and then just ushered him away, you know? It was like, go to the patio. Then another drunk guy popped up, and that drunk guy was awesome. That drunk guy gave me $20 for 3 cigarettes. It's crazy how, if you work at the Comedy Store, it is, like, if you're doing one of those jobs where you just do nothing, it's just a constant sequence of drunk guys. Sometimes you get a good one.
Something about to a drunk person sitting at the back door at the Comedy Store, they see a guy sitting, and they're like, that is just the motherfucker I wanted to talk to. And they come up, and they're like, comedy's going on in there, and you're like, yeah. And then sooner or later, they're like, Africa is a living hell. And you're like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like, holy fuck. I mean, that's the kind of thing
One of the security guards told me that they had to kick out this drunk guy because he was complaining to the manager about how his bill was too much. And then they found out he was making, like, he was buying doubles all night. And it's like, yeah, it's going to be more than $100. You bought 8 doubles.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy, while he was getting ushered, like, before he got ushered, I turned to the 2 security guards, and he goes, all right, who would you guys rather fuck, a black girl or a stinky Indian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you hear some comedians talk about how, quote, everyone's woke now. And you realize they only say that is because they're on Reels. And they're just watching people who are just saying stuff on Reels. Talk to anybody out in the world what they think about other cultures. Racism has not slowed down by a sec. It's going as fast as it always has. Talk to any Uber driver about another race, and you will hear just eugenics.
Yeah.
Like, nobody is woke. This whole thing of people thinking that there has been a culture shift is not at all happening. Even young people.
Yeah, I feel like what happened is people are like, there's a vibe shift or whatever is what right-wingers say. And it's like, no, I think just the people you got annoyed by just realized their complaining didn't help.
Like, they gave up.
Yeah, they gave up on being like, racism is bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look around the world and you just see people never change their views and stuff. And like, I mean, I think it is true that like each generation has new thing. Like, I think the reason older people say Gen Z is so boring is because like if you were a teenager in the 80s, nobody was talking about sexual assault. So you were just sexually assaulting.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and you were rebelling against your parents who were like more conservative people, and you were like, party on, rock on.
Yeah.
But then the rock on people have kids, and what are their kids going to do? They're going to rebel against rock on.
Yeah.
And say, stop rocking, be nice to people. And then the parents are like,
they're going to stop rocking, and they're like, yeah, but are you guys at least going to roll?
No.
We're not going to roll.
And
roll is even worse.
Yeah. And so I'm sure the generation after this, there will, they'll be more insane and less rules because there's a lot of rules from Gen Z and millennials, and I think it'll flow like that.
Millennials were even bigger pussies than Gen Z.
They were. And that's why I think Gen Z is kind of rebelling a little bit, even though we're not really their children, we're rebelling a little bit against like, well, you can say some words, nobody actually cares.
Yeah.
Like I think millennials, a lot of their changes, and this is a conservative take, but it's like I think a lot of millennials changes were very surface level. And just sort of, I don't know, semantic or, based like just in how you're speaking. And they really thought they were changing the world by being like, you don't say that anymore. And that's like just the easiest way to annoy somebody while also changing nothing.
Yeah.
And I think Gen Z has more nihilism, a somewhat healthy nihilism in the way of like, none of that's going to do anything. And so I think Gen Z is like, yeah, a lot more fucked up in the way they speak. But I do wonder, and maybe this is hopeful and maybe it's biased because we're Gen Z, I do think we do have a better feeling, though, of like, yeah, you can say some words, but yeah, you can't fucking sexually assault somebody. You know what I mean? Because a lot of those millennials that are like, don't say those words, a lot of those guys ended up being fucking assaulters.
Yes.
So it's like, it's then was exposed as like this whole thing where it's like, well, do any of you stand on anything? And, I think Gen Z is getting farther away from the sort of performative look at us kind of thing. I mean, definitely performative. We are performative in the way that we're TikTok dancers.
Yeah.
But we're not like TikTok charitable people.
Do you see like, I see this on Instagram sometimes.
I think millennials have more hope is why.
Yeah.
Gen Z has less hope.
You ever see other comedians and people try to moralize on like Instagram stories, and then you have to be like, well, this isn't moral because before when people tried this, it didn't work. You can't be moral if what you're doing doesn't work. And we should know that. We should know this doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like, well, if this was already seen as a thing that's purely for your own gratification and making yourself look like a good person, and we kind of all know that,
yeah,
but you're still doing it, then you're just sort of openly doing it for that gratification.
I saw a person on Instagram bitching about, like, they were like, oh, I guess comedians are back to posting reels, even though there was the fire just now. It's like, when are you supposed to post them?
Yeah.
This is all we have, really.
I think the good and bad of Gen Z is a little bit of acceptance of that, where it's like...
And this is clearly a millennial.
Yeah. And Gen Z is almost similar to boomers in the way of like, yeah, who cares? This is how the world is. I think we think similar things for different reasons. You know what I mean? I think boomers believe in like survival of the fittest, and I think Gen Z is like, nothing is good ever.
Yeah.
And you're always being lied to. And we're not going to change it. We don't have power. We live in a fascist country. But if I can make some money off posting reels, then I'm going to post reels. That's why you see a lot of Gen Z people being like, get your money. And it does lead, I think, in a net way to a bad thing.
Yes.
Because I think we are a very hopeless generation who doesn't really believe in like substance or community or change. I think that's why so many Gen Z people are just fine with things being worse and just being like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. You know, like that's why restaurants, I don't know. It just seems like Gen Z is not trying to do anything. We're somewhat like Gen X, but like I think we do more than Gen X. Gen X just like to sit on the couch. We like to sit on the couch, film it, and get paid for it.
Yeah.
But equally sort of a net negative.
Yeah.
But then you look at millennials and you're like, well, that didn't work either.
Yeah.
And I think that's just Gen Z's responding to be like, it seems like nothing works. And I think Gen X was responding to the hippies thinking that they changed everything and then just becoming a bunch of cocaine addicts while the powers that be ran rampant and all this stuff continued and business and Reagan and all that shit just continued. And they were like, well, there is no hope. So I think it's like you have like hopeful generation, hopeless generation, hopeful generation, hopeless generation, and it just goes back and forth. And I think things get marginally better. I hope things are safer for young women in the world than they were because of the new rhetoric that is talked about. I would hope so. And I think there is a chance of that happening because in the 80s, it was cool to sexually assault people. It just was like grabbing a tit. Your friends would be like, that's awesome. And I think now if you do that, it's not rewarded. Where like testosterone, a lot of people think testosterone increases aggression. What testosterone does, it increases the likelihood, because it's based on status. Testosterone responds to status. So it increases the likelihood of doing whatever you should do to gain status. So if you gain status via aggression in that society, then you will be more aggressive. But if you gain status via being docile or being respectful, then it'll increase that. So you got these young boys ramped up, and if the world is telling them, hey, being sexually aggressive and rude to women is going to lower your status and is bad, then their testosterone is actually going to make them act better. Because status-wise, societally-wise, they will gain more from not being aggressive. So I hope things will change.
Here's a thought I just had. So they talk about that Gen Z men are fucking less. And a thing with male and female relationships is that usually women will go for older men. So you think that we still haven't gotten out of the sexual assault generation yet?
Because the older men are still fucking all those women?
Yeah. You think it's that the millennials, they're still just like doing that shit, but all the young men are like, well, I can't get no pussy at all.
We ain't even got a shot.
Yeah. So you think like maybe it'll take another 10 years before any of that actually starts applying?
I mean, if that's true, then yes. But I don't know. I mean, is it statistically true that young women always fuck men that are older than them?
I don't know if it's statistically
I mean,
true.
I know you sort of hear...
You do hear about it more.
You hear people say it, but in actuality, people say a lot of things.
Yeah.
People self-report a lot of things. Young women might say, I like to be with older guys.
Yeah.
But then they might just fuck a young guy because they find a young guy attractive. You know? I
do wonder, though, if from like college age, women are fucking guys that are more appropriate, and as they get out of college age, they start wanting comfort, and then older men have like economic comfort. And then all those guys that are 23, they're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not like a very viable person if you're like, you know, a broke early 20s guy. Yeah. But also what I will say is that I have never been an economically or, you know, safety-wise viable male. You know, I've never had a lot of money. I don't have much to offer, but I've been able to have sex with attractive young women my age, and I'll reflect on that, and I'll go, well, it kind of makes me think a lot of that thinking isn't really true then, and that actually the truth is that people are just going to fuck people that they're attracted to, and, you know, they're not really thinking about that.
Big picture-wise, though, people talking to you, they'll be like, all right, this guy's broke now. There's a lot of investment when it comes to relationships.
Maybe in relationships, but I've also just had. But if we're talking about fucking,
I guess if we're talking
they're
about
not thinking
versus,
big picture. It's like I've had sex.
I feel like though that a lot of the when they talk about the male loneliness epidemic is less about fucking than it is about people aren't dating.
Yeah, it's just people not participating in anything.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of that's really true as much as just people are more disconnected because we're all on our phones. And also there's a lot of shit on Instagram telling lonely men that all these lies about women. There are all these terrible pages now that are just deeply rooted in misogyny that are trying to teach men about the world. And they're teaching them wrong things. So these men who have never really attempted to go out and get women and don't go out of their house a lot and aren't doing much are sitting at home watching misogynist reels and then going, this is how the world is. And it's like...
Have you watched one of those before? I saw a post. I saw a post that was one of them. And one thing I thought was interesting about it, it starts out light. And then midway through, it's they throw something in that's they throw some real fucked up shit in the middle, and then it's light again. And then at the end, they really delve in.
Because it's propaganda.
Yeah.
And that's how propaganda works. I mean, that's the thing is
it's like a dip your toe in. They dip your toe in, and they're well, for these three things that are three things must be true. Number 4 must be true too.
Yeah, I mean, in an age of disconnectedness and misinformation and people just existing on their phones, is you just have a bunch of people involved in these discourses that are not based on anything in real life. You know, young women aren't master manipulators that are trying to squeeze money out of all the men they're with. They're young women. They're horny. They want to fuck. And if you go out and talk to them and you gel, you might get to fuck them. And it's a much boring, harder answer than most people want to believe. You know, it's
people want to believe there's a bunch of rules.
And there's not.
They love to give you rules.
And they're not. You're two young people. You're both fucking idiots. You're both horny. You're in your sexual primes and you want to fuck. I mean, people act that you have to do all these things to get young women. And there are young women the same as there are young men who believe in this fake game. There are some young women who are I'll only date over 6 foot and he has to have this much money, he has to have this kind of car. And that's a subsection of people.
Yeah.
But most young women you talk to, tons of attractive ones, you can have sex with them by being kind to them and talking to them. And they'll go, I'd like to fuck somebody tonight and you're nice to me. Because people are not going to change. That is how people fuck. And if those guys got out of their house more, they could realize that. But you get wrapped up in this thing of well, it's not even worth going outside of my house because I don't have 6 figures and I'm not 6'2", and all those women are going to reject me. It's go. Have you met most women? Most women are not walking around in cocktail dresses being I need a man. It's most women are...
Well, that's what's interesting about propaganda is there's a lot of it that wants to imposes strict rules because people want to believe in strict rules. Because strict rules makes a nonsensical thing sensical.
Yeah, people are not that complicated. You don't need to do that much. Maybe a little bit. A few years ago, I hooked up with somebody because we followed each other on Instagram, and I messaged them, and I said, do you want to hang out? And then they came over, and I said, do you want to have sex? And then we had sex. And then I stopped hanging out with them, and then they came to a comedy show with their friend, and then after the comedy show, they said, my friend thought you were funny and wants your number. And then I texted them, and then we hung out, and then we had sex. And I didn't do anything. I didn't have money, and I'm not tall. And nothing happened. It's just because I went on stage and I was fun. You don't need to do that much. These guys think they need to be so impressive. You don't need to be that impressive. Tons of ugly guys are fucking. It's also I don't know how you...
I think it's...
and that's not happening all the time.
I think a lot of people don't...
That was years ago.
I think a lot of people don't want to get past their own internet addiction.
They don't want to. They don't want to realize that the real world is a lot more boring and a lot simpler than they expect.
And I do think dating apps are evil, but they aren't the real world.
No, because I don't know how you believe any of that stuff, because if you walk outside, you look at couples, you see an ugly fucking guy, and he's with a lady who's more attractive because she's a lady, but maybe not even that attractive, and they're hanging out. And you know they're going to go home and have sex. And neither of them are impressive people. But they just chose each other because enough things were released in their brain so they could like each other. And this whole thing about there are standard rules is what you're doing is it's misogynistic because you're simplifying an entire group of people. When really it's if you smell like her dad, there's a good chance you'll have sex. or if you are acting in some way that triggers something in their specific brain that is familiar and comfortable to them, then they'll feel safe or attracted to you, and you'll have sex with them.
No,
That's why it's a gamble.
I was just imagining.
It's the same thing in your head.
A guy
as a
going
man.
up to a woman in a bar and be like, "Hey, what's your dad do for work?" And she's like, "He's a woodcutter or some shit like that. Shit where you make wood." The guy runs out and just covers himself in wood, and then comes back and they fuck.
If you smelled like sawdust, it probably wouldn't hurt. And if she smelled like whatever the fuck your mom smelled like,
blood.
Yeah,
she's all bloody.
I was talking to that psychoanalysis. He was like, "Yeah, little boys, you start off your life with immediate rejection because you want to be with your mother, and you're not allowed to be with your mother." He's like, "So all little boys start from that place." And then people get into this whole thing where they're like, "You need all this money, you need all this shit." It's like, no, it's like...
Imagine how confident you'd be if you walked around and you scored with your mom, though. That'd be the most confident. Maybe that's the deal with confident guys. They had sex with their mom.
Every time I see a confident guy, I go, "You disgusting motherfucker. You fucked your mom. That's gross, dude. You can't do that."
Your mom only liked you because you were 6'1" and you had $100,000 when you were a baby.
I just feel bad for people that are so misguided as to trust somebody, like Andrew Tate or whatever, who's not a sociologist or a psychologist or anybody with any understanding of the human brain, and is sitting there telling people how people work, And it's just like, I don't know, like read a book. It's like humans are very complex, but also within those complexities are a lot of simple little mechanisms that are triggered by things that make them do the things they do. And a guy like Andrew Tate is able to manipulate some of those things, but he doesn't really understand people.
I've never actually watched an Andrew Tate video. I don't really know what he believes. I remember somebody told me that their roommate said something that was like, women should have to walk around with a tattoo of their body count on their forehead. And they said it was a Patrice O'Neal joke. And then he said he looked it up and it was an Andrew Tate point.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but like, what does that mean? Like, what does that actually, where you're like, oh, woman's got she's got the letter 18. She's got the number 18 tattooed on her forehead. I guess I won't treat her correctly.
I think a lot of like Andrew Tate's thinking just comes from like fear of abandonment and a fear of having a lack of control and a fear of, just being left alone. And because it's scary to love somebody.
Yeah.
It's scary to go, "I love you. We're in a relationship. And when we're not apart, I really hope that you don't suck a bunch of dicks because that would make me feel bad." And I don't think Andrew Tate is really able to confront and live with that fear. And instead of recognizing that he's fearful, he says, "Well, no, I'm not afraid. Women are bad. And I'm responding to how bad they are. And so I have to keep them chained up in a room because they're so bad." When really he's so scared that being in a normal relationship is terrifying to him.
That's crazy to be so scared of women that you chain them up in your basement and feed them one spoonful of peanut butter every day.
Yeah, that's how afraid he is.
Yeah.
That, and that's what men do when they're afraid is they'll hurt other people to maintain control. And all people do that, but of course men do it more because of the dynamics of the world. But that's why it's a terrible thing to be somebody like Andrew Tate, because you're scared.
I feel so stupid every time I try to figure out why nihilism also just kind of seems to go further towards the right, because I don't understand what a lot of these guys get out of this. Because it's like a lot of this right-wing thought is, well, if you aren't this, then therefore you're going to be alone forever. And then, like, why would you agree with that and then be like, well, I'm fucked?
Because it's an easy way to escape responsibility. It's the same reason why us as depressed guys might not write jokes because we think we're not funny. You're giving yourself an excuse.
Yeah, but it's also like, how does that help? How does it, I guess that they aren't looking for help, but how does the ideology of that lead to the thought process of, well, we should have a dictator that invented an app?
Because it's less control. And because it doesn't help. It maintains the wall that is blocking the self-discovery. If you tear down all those beliefs, you expose fears, and then you have to deal with your own vulnerabilities. You have to take your shell off. So instead of doing that, they cover themselves with a shell of assumptions about the world and about women so they can live in that shell and say everything I'm doing makes sense and I'm not a pussy, I'm just responding to the world around me. And you're giving yourself excuses to do nothing, because the braver, harder thing to do is to look at yourself and your fears and your issues and then try and fix those, and also try and treat others morally. All these guys, when they think about self-discovery, also have this implicit thing where they're like, and fuck everyone else, because they're scared. And it's like, no, like, I mean, true strength is like having confidence in yourself, being able to trust other people, being able to ask other people for help when needed, but not being a leech. And those people don't want to do that.
But how much is this a problem of individuals so much as it a problem of the structure of the world we live in? You know, because sometimes I try to feel, I try to be like, well, you shouldn't think that. But then I'm also just like, yeah, but like, I know why they think that. Like, I'm not like, why do these motherfuckers think this?
Well, it's both. It's always both. There's a lot of people who have like a lot of fears and they don't do that,
I wonder if,
I have tons of fears of abandonment and everything falling apart and my life being ruined, but I don't hate women because of it.
Yeah.
I realize I have those issues, and I only do that because I think I had a therapist as a father. I just grew up in a certain home where those things were more openly talked about. So when I look for answers and when I feel trouble, I'll go to a book of like cognitive behavioral therapy or a neurology book, as opposed to going to like a Christian book or some guy like Andrew Tate, because I didn't grow up in like a hyper-masculine household. You go to what you know. And when you're scared, you revert back to those things, but you're all primed. So it's like, some people look for truth and they go, I'm going to get back into religion. Some people look for truth and they get back into science because they didn't grow up in a religious household. So those guys are doing that for some reason that's probably based on their childhood, because that's just where you learned everything,
Yeah.
So it's like Andrew Tate appeals to something within those young men. And it might be that they have a hyper-masculine, very religious father. It does seem
like a lot of times that the far right on the internet are looking for a father.
Yes. Yeah, the reason guys get into like white supremacist militias and stuff is the same reason young men in inner city communities will get into gangs, is because it's mentorship.
Yeah.
They're looking for structure. They're looking for something, Yeah,
and that's why there's so many fucking of those in fucking San Diego and fucking Orange County. Those guys are just there.
Yeah. And they're just, they're scared and they just want answers, It's like, and, they don't really want freedom and independence. They want almost the opposite. They want to be told what to do and for things to be stable. They want to be taken care of.
Isn't it crazy? That's what's crazy about Southern California is it's the gang capital of fucking America. And also they also have like the amount of white supremacist groups is fucking crazy.
We love groups here.
Yeah, this is
we love to be in a gang,
city.
Start a band,
And I guess it's just because everything's so spread out.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a lot
New York has
space.
gangs, but they're like, the difference I've heard is that the gangs in New York are so based around money rather than community. Or the gangs in LA and the gangs in Chicago are just like, I want to go kill these guys that are other gangs. They want to bang.
Yeah.
I guess that's just a lack of, I guess it's just the structure of what it is. Southern California is less, as a whole, it's just a bunch of neighborhoods that are very loosely connected to a greater whole.
Mm-hmm.
Which
we
I
don't
guess
all like each other.
I read a thing in this magazine, this old magazine that referred to LA as the most diverse city in the world, which is like technically not true, because New York has like racial diversity, much more racial, and Houston does too. But I feel like what they mean is that every life is different. There's no real connecting tether other than cars. And even then, every neighborhood is completely different. Every life is completely different. You aren't connected by that fucking sense of community in New York where you're walking around all the time and you use the subway. There's not a bones of structures of life. And I think that that's part of why LA is so despised. You aren't provided as I said, there's no structure. Like, there's no structure that's inherently provided to you. Even in the fucking, like, in the comedy scene, it's fucking, like, you could go here or you can go here, and there's no real sensible fucking, like, well, I do this, and then I become successful.
No, it's just like a bunch of different ships that happen to be close to each other in the ocean. But they don't feel like they have a lot to do with each other. Like, I was in the Valley recently, and I felt a lot better just being in the Valley because I hadn't been there in a while, and that's where I'm from, even though I'm from Inglewood. But it felt good to just be in the Valley, and it's like I'm 30 minutes away from where I am now, but this doesn't feel like my home.
Yeah.
This feels like 1,000 miles away practically because that's just how LA is. There's not like a through line. There's no through line to Los Angeles. There's like a through line to New York where you're like, I'm in one of the 5 boroughs. But in LA, you are where you are for as long as you're there, and you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah. What time is it?
It's 3:22.
All right.
Aaron will be here soon.
We should stop.
I'll say this. When I go back to Tennessee, I almost don't recognize it. And when I go back to East Hollywood, there's a feeling of home I've never felt.
Well, yeah, in a big city, you kind of find your home. It's a place where people come to find things.
I don't think your home is where it's the first place you're from. I feel like it's the second place you're from. I feel like no matter where I go from here, I always have that feeling that home is East Hollywood. Because at some point, it's like, I'll probably go to New York.
They wouldn't accept you.
Probably not.
Why would they?
There's no reason to accept me.
Exactly.
Anyway, so...
You're short.
So the next episode is going to be an interview, or I don't know, it's probably, these aren't really interviews we have.
We're going to learn about the LA literary scene.
We are.
Tune
It'll
in
be cool.
Next week, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.